Gupta culture. Gupta culture. The Gupta era saw the emergence of the classical art forms and development of various aspects of Indian culture and civilization. Erudite treatises were written on a multiplicity of subjects ranging from grammar, mathematics, astronomy and medicine, to the Kama Sutra, the famous treatise on the art of love. This age registered considerable progress in literature and science, particularly in astronomy and mathematics. The most outstanding literary figure of the Gupta period was Kalidasa, whose choice of words and imagery brought Sanskrit drama to new heights. Aryabhatta, who lived during this age, was the first Indian who made a significant contribution to astronomy. Emotional Tamil poetry aided the Hindu revival. Art, often erotic, architecture and literature, all patronized by the Gupta court, flourished. Indians exercised their proficiency in art and architecture. Under the Guptas, Ramayana and the Mahabharata were finally written down in the AD 4th century. India's greatest poet and dramatist, Kalidasa, acquired fame expressing the values of the rich and powerful. Literature and the revival of Sanskrit in the Gupta era. Gupta literature consists of fables and folk tales written in Sanskrit. These stories spread west to Persia, Egypt, and Greece, and became the basis for many Islamic literary works such as Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves and Aladdin and His Magic Lamp. The Panchatantra and Kama Sutra were written during this period. The greatest writer of the time was Kalidasa. Poetry in the Gupta age tended towards a few genres: religious and meditative poetry, lyric poetry, narrative histories, the most popular of the secular literatures, and drama. The Nalanda University in Bihar came to fame during the Gupta rule. Side by side with the renovation of Brahmanism, the use and influence of Sanskrit grew apace. An early stage in its revival was marked by the long Junagadh rock inscription of Rudradaman, dated 72, Sakai, ~IJOAD. But now it was uniformly given the place of honor as the official language of epigraphic documents and coin legends. Even Buddhist writers of the day, like Vasubandhu and Dignaga, preferred Sanskrit to Pali, the earlier vehicle of expression. The Gupta period has generally been compared to the Periclean age in the history of Greece, or to the Elizabethan epoch in that of England. It was distinguished by a number of intellectual celebrities, whose contributions vastly enriched the different branches of Indian literature. The Gupta monarchs encouraged learning, and were themselves highly cultured. We have already noted the evidence of the Allahabad pillar inscription about Samudragupta's poetical attainments and proficiency in music. Besides, the universal tradition which associates the 9 gems, Navaratna, with the legendary Vikramaditya, shows what a profound impression the brilliant literary coterie of Chandragupta II Vikramaditya's court created in the popular mind. Its most shining light was, of course, Kalidasa, the famous poet and dramatist, who was perhaps a native of Malwa. Although eclipsed by the genius of Kalidasa, there were many other poets of repute during the Gupta times. Harisena and Vatsabhati, contemporaries of Samudragupta and Kumaragupta II respectively, have left us their compositions permanently incised on stone. Kalidasa. Kalidasa is arguably India's most famous writer. He lived in the AD 4th or 5th century and was a Sanskrit poet and dramatist. The best-known plays that have survived from this era are Shakuntala and The Little Clay Cart, the former written by Kalidasa and the latter a comedy also perhaps written by him. Kalidasa is believed to have been a native of Malwa. Unfortunately, his date is still open to doubt, and some scholars persist in the view that he was living in 57 BC. But there are strong grounds to believe that he flourished in the Gupta age, and that he was a contemporary of Chandragupta II or Kumaragupta I. Indeed, an allusion to the conquests of the former may be detected in the exaggerated description of Raghu's Digvijaya in the Ratwamiya. Another epic poem by Kalidasa is the Kumdra Sambhava, while the Rj2 Samhara and the Alagadutta present two excellent examples of lyrical poetry. Of his plays, we know the Mdlavikdgni Mitra, Vikramorvasi and Sakuntala, the last being so superb as to win the appreciation of the greatest literary critics of the world. Kama Sutra. The Kama Sutra is the famous guidebook on fulfilling kama, sensual pleasure, with a particular emphasis on sex, probably produced during the Gupta period. It was written by a celibate yogi named Malanaga Vatsyayana in the AD 4th or 5th century. In the West, it is perhaps best known for the 64 love-making positions in recommends, some of which only contortionists can perform, and the sexual art and instructive paintings that often accompanied them. According to PBS, Kama means love, desire, or pleasure in Sanskrit, and the sutra is the earliest surviving example of the Kama Sutra, or science of erotica genre, that would become popular in later centuries. Women were encouraged to learn 64 practices of the Kama Sutra, including singing, dancing, and even carpentry, and solving riddles. The Kama Sutra treats sex as both an art and a science and divides men and women into sexual types, discusses sexual positions, details appropriate conduct for married women and provides advice for courtesans. Kama is one of the 3 basic ingredients for living a balanced life during the family phase of the 4 stages of a Hindu man's life. The other 2 are dharma, moral and social duties, and artha, the pursuit of wealth and power to support one's family. A sutra is a scripture or a religious text. Sutra literally means a thread or line that holds things together. The Kama Sutra describes 17 types of kisses, 12 kinds of embraces and 8 kinds of nail marks. But it also says sex should only be performed in the context of marriage. According to the Kama Sutra, sexual preference vary from place to place in India. The women of the central countries dislike pressing the nails and biting. The women of Aparitka are full of passion, and make slowly the sound, seeth. According to Indohistory.com, the Kama Sutra, or Kama Sutra, is a famous Hindu text, which is widely considered to be a classic work on human sexual behavior. It was originally written in Sanskrit by Vatsyayana. A portion of the literature consists of practical advice on sexual intercourse. Gupta mathematics and the advent of 0 and base 10 numbers. The Indian numeral system, sometimes erroneously attributed to the Arabs, who took it from India to Europe where it replaced the Roman system, and the decimal system are Indian inventions of this period. Aryabhatta's expositions on astronomy in 499, moreover, gave calculations of the solar year and the shape and movement of astral bodies with remarkable accuracy. In medicine, Charaka and Sushruta wrote about a fully evolved system, resembling those of Hippocrates and Galen in Greece. Although progress in physiology and biology was hindered by religious injunctions against contact with dead bodies, which discouraged dissection and anatomy, Indian physicians excelled in pharmacopoeia, caesarean section, bone setting, and skin grafting. The use of 0 and decimal numbers based on the number 10 was pioneered under the Gupta. Advances were in veterinary science. Pi was calculated to 4 decimal places, and the solar year was calculated to 8 places. The greatest mathematician of India, Aryabhatta, also belongs to this age. Gupta mathematicians created a number writing system that was later adopted by the Islamic Empire. This system became known as Arabic numerals, but is really a Gupta achievement. This is the number writing system used throughout the world today. Gupta physicians developed herbal remedies to treat various illnesses. They also developed a form of plastic surgery for the treatment of facial injuries. Physicians vaccinated against smallpox, a practice later used in China, 10th century, and Europe, 17th century. Life, culture and education under Harsha. Under Harshavardhana, Harsha, r. 606–47, North India was reunited briefly with the center of the empire in Kannauj. According to the Columbia Encyclopedia, Gupta splendor rose again under the Emperor Harsha of Kannauj, c.606–647, and India enjoyed a renaissance of art, letters, and theology. It was at this time that the noted Chinese pilgrim Xuanzang, Xuanzang, visited India. The prosperity and importance of Kannauj, so well begun during the time of the Makkaras, grew tremendously under Harsha, and it now easily became the premier city of northern India, supplanting Pataliputra, the older center, through which the main currents of political life had flowed since the days of the Buddha. To the observant eyes of a foreigner it must have appeared a great cosmopolitan town whose inhabitants were almost equally divided between orthodoxy and heterodoxy. There were 100 Buddhist monasteries with more than 10,000 brethren belonging to both the vehicles. The Deva temples amounted to about 200, and the non-Buddhists were several thousands in number. The city itself, 20 li or about 5 miles in length and 5 li in breadth, was strongly defended by both nature and art. It was well planned, and had beautiful gardens and tanks of clear water. The houses were, on the whole, clean, comfortable and simple, or, in the words of Xuanzang, sumptuous inside and economical outside. The people wore a refined appearance, and the rich were dressed in glossy silk attire. Great as was Harsha as a ruler and conqueror, he was greater still in the arts of peace that hath her victories no less renowned than war. One of them was the convocation of a grand assembly at Kannauj to give the utmost publicity to the doctrines of the Manayana. Harsha marched from his camp with accustomed pomp and pageantry along the southern bank of the Ganges, accompanied by Xuanzang and Bhaskaravarman, king of Kamarupa, and in the course of 90 days reached his destination. Player Harsha was received by the kings of 18 countries, of the 5 Indies too, and several thousand priests belonging to the various sects, who had gathered together in response to the royal summons to join in the deliberations. Harsha had previously ordered the construction of 2 thatched halls, each to accommodate 1,000 persons, and a huge tower, in the middle of which was placed a golden statue of the Buddha, of the same height as the king himself. One of the claims of Harsha to remembrance rests on his liberal patronage of learning. Xuanzang says that Harsha used to earmark a fourth of the revenue from the crown lands for rewarding men of intellectual distinction. According to the Life, he generously assigned the revenue of 80 large towns of Orissa to a noted Buddhist scholar, named Jayasena, who, however, thankfully declined even this tempting offer. 6. Harsha also made munificent endowments to Nalanda, the great center of Buddhist learning. Its lofty structures, its inspiring instruction imparted through discussion, its comprehensive curriculum, its large assemblage of students from far and near, 7 and above all, the noble character and deep scholarship of its teachers and alumni, were then matters of pride to the entire Buddhist world, and kings vied with one another in their liberality to equip and endow this great institution. Harsha's interest in literature is further evident from his patronage of authors like Banabhatta, who wrote the Harshakarita, first part of the Kadambaral, C and L Dodika, etc. Mayura, whose chief contribution was the Sariyayataka, and also Matanga Divakara, a shadowy bard. Thank you.